Every attack carries the same hidden purpose. Every insult, no matter how small, has one aim. Every subtle jab is not random, but carefully aimed to pull you out of balance and make you show emotion. The moment you react with anger or defense, the moment you let your voice rise or your face twitch, you have already stepped into the trap. Because now the battle is no longer about truth, it is about control, and you handed that control to them without realizing it. They want you to explain yourself, to fight back, to prove them wrong. Because the second you do, you are no longer defining the situation, you are reacting to it. Reaction is submission, even when you think you are standing up for yourself. When you argue, when you justify, when you let them see they touched a nerve, you are silently admitting they have power over you. And once they sense it, they will not stop. They will keep pressing, they will keep probing, because they know exactly where your armor cracks. The trap of emotion is ancient. It has been used in politics, in business, in relationships, in every field where influence matters. It works because people believe defending themselves is strength, but in truth, defending is often weakness disguised as reason. You think you are clearing your name, but you are actually lowering yourself to their frame. Think about it. When someone accuses you of arrogance and you rush to insist you are not arrogant, you have already admitted their view matters more than your presence. When someone says you are selfish and you begin explaining how much you actually care, you have already given them the steering wheel. You may believe you are convincing, but the room does not see conviction, it sees insecurity. Because only the weak feel the need to prove they are strong, only the insecure rush to say they are secure. The real power lies in restraint, in silence, in refusing to be baited. When someone tries to provoke you, they are testing if you can be moved. If you move even slightly, you confirm what they suspected. If you stay still, you shatter their entire strategy. The trap of emotion is not just about words, it is about timing, about control of the frame. Once you are emotional, you are predictable. And once you are predictable, you are easy to manipulate. They can guide you into long explanations, into heated arguments, into desperate clarifications, all while they sit back and watch you drain yourself. But when you refuse to react, when you hold silence, when you let their words die in the air without feeding them, you turn the trap back on them. They look unstable. They look bitter. They look like the one who cannot control themselves. And you, calm and still, become the one who owns the room. This is the truth of the trap of emotion. It only catches those who step into it. People push your buttons for a reason. They are not searching for truth, they are searching for control, and the fastest way to control someone is to find the places that make them react. They test your patience. They say something slightly insulting. They question your choices in front of others, and they wait to see what happens. If you stay calm, the game ends before it starts. But if you snap, if you raise your voice, if you rush into long explanations, you just showed them exactly where to keep pressing. Your anger becomes their roadmap, your defense becomes their fuel, and your explanations become entertainment for the crowd. It feels unfair because you know their words are not true, yet the more you try to clear yourself, the more guilty or unstable you appear. That is why they do it, because they understand how emotion clouds reason. And once you are emotional, they no longer need to be right, they only need to be loud. The truth is, people do not attack out of curiosity, they attack to see if you can be shaken. They want to see if you will reveal insecurity, because insecurity is leverage. In business meetings, in social groups, even in private relationships, the pattern is the same. Someone throws a small jab, maybe disguised as humor, maybe as innocent curiosity, but the intention is to see how much power they can gain by your reaction. If you defend yourself too quickly, you reveal you care about their opinion more than your own presence. If you get angry, you show them they live rent-free in your head. If you explain, you give them authority by treating their question as something worth answering. Every reaction feeds them, and once fed, they will keep returning to that button. It is why bullies always repeat the same insult, why critics harp on the same flaw, why manipulators use the same line. They found what works, and they know you will keep giving them energy. This is why control is everything, because the real power is not in the words they use, but in the reaction you choose. If you do not give them fuel, they burn themselves out. They look for a spark and find none, and in that emptiness, they expose themselves. They start pressing harder, repeating the same line, getting louder, and soon the room is not looking at you but at them. You become the calm one, they become the unstable one. The crowd sees you as steady. They see your accuser as insecure. That is the reversal of power. They wanted you emotional, but by holding still, you made them emotional instead. Understand this. Every time someone pushes your buttons, it is not about the words, it is about the frame. They are saying, I can control you, I can pull you into my game. The moment you refuse, the game ends. The strongest move is not defense, not anger, not explanation, but silence and calm, because nothing is more frustrating to a manipulator than a target who will not react. Before every reaction, there is a moment so small that most people miss it, a breath, a gap, a space where choice lives. This pause is where power hides, because once you learn to see it, you learn to control it. The world pushes you to react fast, to answer questions instantly, to fire back when insulted, to prove yourself the second someone doubts you. But quick reactions are almost always emotional, and emotional reactions rarely serve you. They serve the person who provoked you, because speed means they pulled you into their tempo. When you rush to reply, you lose the chance to think, you lose the frame, and you hand over control without noticing. But when you pause, when you take that breath and hold it, you shift the entire balance. The one who controls silence controls the tempo, and the one who controls the tempo controls the frame. Think about the moments when silence made you uncomfortable. Someone asked a question, and nobody answered right away. The air felt heavy, and in that heaviness you wanted to fill it. That urge is exactly why silence is powerful. Whoever resists that urge is the one who ends up with authority. When you pause before reacting, the crowd wonders what you are thinking. They lean in, they wait. They begin to doubt the one who spoke against you. In those seconds of stillness, power moves away from the accuser and toward you. Because silence, when held with calm, does not look like weakness, it looks like composure. Most people fear silence because it exposes them. It leaves them alone with their own words. That is why pausing after someone tries to provoke you is so effective. You do not fight them, you do not defend yourself, you do not even give them the gift of instant acknowledgement. You let their words echo, and in that echo they start to sound more emotional, more desperate, more unstable. The room stops watching you, it starts watching them. And you, without moving, have taken control. The pause is not about hesitation, it is about dominance of pace. You show that you are not forced to react, that you can wait, that you are the one deciding when the game continues. The pause also protects you. It gives your mind time to process, to strip away the emotion, to choose a response that strengthens your frame instead of weakening it. Maybe you say nothing. Maybe you give a short, calm remark. Maybe you redirect the focus back on them. Whatever you choose, the pause ensured it came from control, not panic. Over time, mastering the pause builds an aura. People stop testing you because they know they will not get the quick emotional spark they crave. Instead, they know you will meet every attempt with stillness, and that stillness makes them cautious. They start second-guessing before they even speak. That is the hidden power of the pause, the ability to bend the tempo of every interaction until you are the one in command. Silence is often mistaken for weakness. People think if you do not respond, you must have no answer. If you do not defend yourself, you must be guilty. But in truth, silence is one of the sharpest weapons you can ever use. It does not need volume, it does not need explanation, it does not even need movement. Yet it cuts deeper than words ever could. When someone accuses you, they expect noise, they expect anger, they expect to pull you into a fight. And when none of that comes, when you sit still and give them nothing, they begin to feel the weight of their own words pressing back on them. Silence burns because it creates doubt, not in you, but in them. They wonder if they went too far, if they look foolish, if the crowd is judging them instead. In that wondering, the balance of power shifts, and suddenly the one who shouted loudest looks the most insecure, while the one who stayed quiet looks untouchable. Think about the moments in life where silence made you nervous. A teacher who paused before answering, a leader who held his gaze without saying a word, a stranger who listened without interruption. In each case, the silence carried more pressure than any speech. That is the nature of silence when used with purpose. It makes people uncomfortable. It forces them to fill the space with their own thoughts, their own fears, their own insecurity. This is why silence is not passive, it is active. It is aggressive in its own quiet way. It sets traps without moving a finger. The accuser expects you to defend. The audience expects you to react. But when you do neither, everyone is left hanging in uncertainty. And uncertainty is power. Silence also exposes those who attack you. Words thrown into the air without response do not vanish. They echo. The longer you remain calm, the louder those echoes grow, until the attacker looks desperate to be heard, repeating themselves, exaggerating, revealing their own weakness. They wanted you emotional, but instead they become emotional themselves, caught in the silence you created. You do not need to call them insecure, they prove it on their own. You do not need to argue their claim, they discredit themselves by trying too hard to make it stick. That is the hidden art of silence. It makes the enemy fight against their own reflection while you stand untouched. Silence also builds aura. The more you use it, the more people see you as calm, composed, untouchable. They stop testing you because they know they will not get the reaction they crave. They begin to respect your stillness, they begin to fear it because silence is unpredictable. Words can be challenged, but silence leaves nothing to attack. It becomes myth, it becomes mystery, it becomes presence, and presence is power. Silence is not retreat, it is advance without motion, it is control without effort, and when you master it, you carry a weapon no one can defend against. When someone tries to provoke you, the instinct is to meet their words with your own, to defend, to clarify, to set the record straight. But the real power comes when you do the opposite, when you give them no resistance at all. Because the moment you stay silent, the game changes, and the trap they set for you begins to close on them instead. They wanted a battle, but without your response there is no fight, only their voice echoing into the air. And the longer they keep going, the more desperate they begin to look. People who expect a reaction cannot help themselves when they don't get one. They keep talking, they stretch their argument, they repeat themselves, and in doing so, they reveal far more than they intended. Silence makes them restless, and restlessness makes them sloppy. You will notice that when you refuse to take the bait, your attacker will often start to over-explain. What began as a sharp jab becomes a string of justifications, each one weaker than the last. They add more words, they add more emotion, because deep down they feel their first strike did not land, and now they need to prove it. The more they talk, the more holes appear, the more the crowd sees insecurity instead of strength. You did nothing, yet their own need for validation exposes them. This is the beauty of restraint. It forces the other side to do all the work, and the harder they try, the worse they look. Overreaching is another sign of their unraveling. A small comment becomes a full attack, a single point turns into a rant, and soon they sound exaggerated, bitter, almost unstable. The audience starts to shift, their eyes move from you to the person speaking, and what they see is not power, but desperation. Silence makes overreach obvious, because without your reaction to balance it, their energy feels out of place, almost embarrassing. People expect a push and pull, but when one side refuses to push back, the one who keeps pulling eventually falls under their own weight. What follows is overexposure. In their attempt to take you down, they reveal more about themselves than about you. Their envy, their insecurity, their obsession, all of it comes spilling out because they cannot handle the quiet. The room begins to see what you already knew, that the attack was never really about you, it was about them. And once that becomes clear, you do not need to defend because the crowd has already judged. They are no longer watching you, they are watching your attacker unravel. This is why silence and stillness are so powerful. They create space, and in that space, truth comes out without you lifting a finger. The one who speaks too much reveals weakness. The one who stays calm reveals strength. Let them talk. Let them stretch. Let them expose themselves, and while they lose composure, you gain presence. That is how restraint wins battles without ever raising a voice. When someone comes at you with anger or bitterness, the natural instinct is to push back, to argue, to meet their heat with your own. But what most people never realize is that reacting only hides their weakness instead of exposing it. The moment you fight back, you take the spotlight off of them and place it on yourself. But when you refuse to answer, when you stay still, and let their words hang in the air. Their emotion becomes louder than anything you could ever say. Their bitterness shows, their envy shows, their insecurity shows, and it becomes clear to everyone watching that the one who lost control was not you, but them. Silence is not absence, it is a mirror, and in that mirror their true face is revealed. People often mistake arguments as a way to prove strength, but in truth, arguments cover weakness, because both sides appear rattled, both sides look unstable, and the crowd cannot tell who is truly in control. The secret is that the less you do, the more they reveal. Your calmness reflects their lack of calm. Your steady presence reflects their instability. Your neutral tone reflects their desperate one. You did not need to accuse them of anything, you simply let them accuse themselves with every extra word and every shaky tone. This is why the most powerful response is often no response at all, because the silence becomes a spotlight, and the longer they stand in it, the more their flaws are seen. Think about how uncomfortable it feels when someone is emotional and the other person does not match their energy. The emotional one starts to wonder if they went too far, if they sound dramatic, if they look foolish. That doubt grows because humans expect conflict to be mirrored. When anger meets silence, the silence always wins because silence creates reflection. Soon the accuser scrambles, they explain too much, they repeat themselves, they search for validation from others. The more they scramble, the more obvious it becomes that they are fighting shadows. You, on the other hand, are untouched. This method works in every setting, whether in business arguments, social conflicts, or personal relationships. If someone accuses you of not caring, and you meet it with calm stillness, they are left alone with the weight of their own accusation. If someone mocks you in front of a group, and you simply look at them without reaction, the group begins to question the one who mocked. Your lack of movement forces everyone to hear the emotion behind their words, instead of focusing on you. Without your fight to hide them, their insecurities are fully exposed. In the end, this is not about being cold, it is about being strategic. You are not silencing them, you are letting their own emotion become their downfall. You are turning their energy back on them, without lifting a finger. The mirror never lies, and when you master silence, you let people destroy themselves by revealing what they wanted to hide. Most people are trained to believe that strength comes from proving themselves. They think if they explain enough, or justify long enough, others will respect them. But the truth is, the more you prove, the weaker you look. Proof is for the doubtful. Presence is for the powerful. You do not need to argue with every critic. You do not need to explain every decision. You do not need to bend over backward to show you are right. You only need to stand there, calm, still, unbothered, because presence alone carries more weight than the loudest defense ever could. The moment you stop chasing proof and start cultivating presence, the way people see you changes. They stop questioning you because questioning feels beneath the energy you radiate. They stop testing you because testing feels dangerous. Think about the people who have left the strongest impression on you often. It was not the ones who spoke the most. It was the ones who spoke the least but carried themselves like every word would matter when it came. Their posture, their calm, their gaze. It all communicated something that explanations never could. They were not proving anything, they were defining it. And when you define rather than prove, others accept your reality as the frame of truth. That is why presence is more powerful than proof, because proof still lives in their hands while presence lives in yours. Presence is built in the way you hold silence, the way you pause before speaking, the way you look at someone without blinking when they try to rattle you. It is not about acting superior. It is about knowing you do not need to act at all. The moment you know that your calm is stronger than their noise, you begin to project an energy that cannot be faked. People feel it without you saying a word. They measure themselves when they are around you. They lower their tone, they second-guess before they speak. Because presence is gravity, and gravity bends everything around it. When you rely on proof, you are always running behind. You are always reacting. You are always trying to catch up to someone else's narrative. But when you rely on presence, you are always ahead. Because you are not playing their game, you are showing that their opinion does not define you, your silence does. This is why the calm one is feared more than the loud one, because calm signals certainty, and certainty cannot be bought or forced. When you stand still in the face of attacks, when you hold your ground without defense, The accuser looks like they are shouting at a mountain, and the mountain never moves. This is the ultimate shift from seeking validation to radiating presence. Stop trying to convince, stop trying to explain, stop trying to prove, and instead focus on how you carry yourself, because presence is the proof that cannot be questioned. Control is not shown by how much you talk or how loudly you defend yourself. It is shown by how much you refuse to be pulled into noise. The more you practice restraint, the more untouchable you appear, because people begin to see that nothing shakes you, nothing makes you flinch, nothing drags you into chaos. Your silence stops being empty. It becomes a message, a quiet declaration that you are in charge of yourself and that no one else sets your tempo. Over time, this silence turns into something larger. It becomes reputation, it becomes aura. And once you carry that aura, people think twice before they test you. They learn that testing you is not worth the cost, because it feels like hitting a wall, heavy and unmoving. The aura of control is built one choice at a time. Every moment you hold your calm when others want you emotional, every time you keep still when others expect you to break, every time you end the game by not playing it, you add another layer to that aura. People start noticing. They remember how you did not answer the insult, how you did not overreact to criticism, how you did not run to explain yourself when accused. Each memory adds weight to your presence, and soon your silence speaks before you do. The crowd whispers that you cannot be rattled, that you cannot be provoked, and that whisper grows into a shield of respect. The strongest part of this aura is predictability and restraint. When people realize you will never lose control, they stop trying to push you, because every failed attempt makes them look smaller. Attacks fade before they even begin, because the attacker knows they will only end up exposing themselves. You have built an invisible armor that does not need defense, because it prevents the blow from mattering in the first place. This is the level where power becomes almost effortless. You no longer need to prove your strength. Your aura proves it for you. Think of leaders, thinkers, or even quiet individuals who carry authority without speaking much. Their stillness is not emptiness, it is pressure. People lean in around them. They measure their own words more carefully. They sense the boundary without it ever being spoken. That is what aura does. It bends behavior without force. It is not aggression, it is presence. And presence is harder to resist than any command. The aura of control does not come overnight, it comes from discipline. You must resist the small temptations to fight back. You must master the pauses. You must allow silence to do its work. With each test you pass, the aura strengthens, and soon you do not need to lift your voice or prove your case. People already know. They stop testing because testing feels pointless. They stop provoking because provoking you feels like a waste of energy. In the end, your restraint becomes your greatest weapon, and your aura of control becomes the power that no one can touch. At the highest level, silence stops being a tactic you pull out in certain moments and becomes the atmosphere you carry everywhere. It is no longer about resisting provocation or choosing not to defend yourself. It is about reaching a state where you do not even feel the need to consider it. You move past reaction, past resistance, past explanation, into something far greater, a calm authority that bends the environment without effort. In this state you do not fight noise, you rise above it. And because you exist above it, people no longer try to shake you, they begin adjusting themselves to you. This is the final evolution, when silence has transformed into command. When you walk into a room at this level, you do not need to speak to set the tone. Your stillness sets it for you. People lower their voices, they measure their words, they wait for your response that may or may not come, because your presence already carries weight. You are no longer playing defense. You are defining the entire frame. The ones who once tested you fall quiet, because they know nothing moves you, and trying will only expose them. The crowd that once expected explanations now finds strength in your certainty, because silence at this stage does not feel like absence. It feels like gravity, and gravity shapes everything around it. The difference between silence as a tactic and silence as aura is depth. A tactic you use sometimes, aura you live in always. A tactic works only in certain battles. Aura wins without battles ever beginning. When silence becomes aura, you no longer rely on clever phrases, dismissive remarks, or short-cutting responses. You simply let your energy communicate what words never could. You stand calm and untouchable, and people feel it. They sense that their approval means nothing to you, that their attacks cannot move you, that their praise cannot sway you either. This neutrality is terrifying to the insecure because it shows you are free from their control. At this level, your silence begins to command loyalty without request. Others start to defend you without being asked, because your restraint makes them feel protective. Your calmness makes them admire you, and your mystery makes them imagine strength even greater than reality. You are no longer seen as someone to challenge lightly, but as someone whose silence alone decides the tempo of the room. The attacks that once came frequently stop altogether, because no one wants to be the fool who swings at smoke and collapses under their own weight. Command in silence is not about hiding emotion. It is about being so secure that you no longer need to show it. It is about reaching the point where your existence is the proof, where your presence is the defense, where your aura is the shield. At this stage, you do not need to resist. You do not need to react. You do not need to explain, because silence has become your authority, and authority needs no words. Maybe this video helped you see yourself or someone you know in a different way. Feel free to let us know via a like or in the comments. And if you want more wisdom and guidance in becoming a better version of yourself, subscribe now. This is the moment to start becoming the person you really want to be.